Hey there, folks. Tim Slade here from the eLearning Designers Academy. You know how some people's career paths look like a straight line and others look more like, a winding road with a few detours? Well, when I sat down with Tania Shenk, one of my past students from my hands-on cohort and coaching program, we dug into what it really looks like to make an intentional transition into instructional design and all of the bumps and the doubts and the wins that come along with it. Tanya's story is such a great example of how you can take past experiences, how you can embrace learning new skills and still wrestle with things like confidence and imposter syndrome all along the way. So in this conversation, we talk about how she discovered instructional design and what it means to build skills that really stand out. And so my hope is that as you listen and watch our conversation, you'll see parts of yourself in Tanya's journey and maybe walk away feeling a little more grounded and encouraged and ready to take your own next steps. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and bell button down below to get alerted the next time I publish a video just like this one. And after you've watched this session, make sure to join us inside our free community inside the eLearning Designers Academy at elearningacademy.io or with the link down below, where we help new instructional designers and e-learning developers grow their careers by focusing on skills first. Otherwise, sit back, listen in, and enjoy my conversation with Tania. Hey, Tania, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Tim?
Oh, it's Thursday and I'm ready for Friday and I'm ready for the weekend. You know what I mean? So,
Always.
yeah,
Starting on Monday.
starting on Monday. Yes. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. You and I have been working together over the last several months and weeks because obviously you participated in our cohort program. But now you're past that. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to have you come and join us and share a little bit about your story and your transition into instructional design out of the world of education and all that you learned from it. I think, one of the things I guess I want to say before I have you introduce yourself formally, one of the things I really appreciate about you and your journey is you approached I was able to see a real evolution in your growth, and you approached your transition into instructional design with such intention. And I think that's, as we get into the conversation, that's what I'm hoping people will be able to take away from it. So yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about your background. Who are you? And I don't know, who's Tania?
Sure. Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate you having me on today and giving me
Yeah.
the time to speak to other career transitioners. So my name is Tania Shenk, and I am an educator. I've been in education in some capacity for the past 16 years or so, and I've been in instructional leadership, and it's just kind of who I am. And so one of the things that I've done is, besides just teaching in person, I've also educated virtually. So one of the greatest opportunities prior to joining your program was an exposure that I had to virtual learning and teaching, because I was part of the leadership team at the Virtual Academy, which was something that came out of COVID, but then it started out with about 4,000 learners, but then it shifted and stabilized at about 1,000. So in that position, it was a startup, and a lot of it was a baptism by fire. So we really had to come up with a learning environment in a fully virtual setting. And there was so much learning that I took away from that, and also comfort in working in a virtual setting. So in that position, I consistently designed and delivered learning in a modular way with feedback through videos, and it just kind of sort of shaped me without me knowing into the direction of going into instructional design and e-learning.
So did you even know that that was instructional design work when you were doing it?
Not at all. I had no
No.
idea, but I really loved it, and it was really fun.
So how did you talk? So, okay, so you had that experience. I think that's so true for a lot of people who fall into instructional design, even if they don't have the title instructional designer, or before they even realize what instructional design is, they look back on their past and they go, oh, I was kind of already doing some sort of instructional design work. Like even for myself, when I was still catching shoplifters in the stores, I was always the person that my manager at the time would task me for creating resources and training for our own little district of stores. And that's kind of, I was doing pseudo instructional design work or training work before I even realized it. So tell me, like, when did you connect the dots that like what you're doing at this virtual academy was effectively instructional design work? And like, when did you put like words to that?
So I think it really didn't happen until I started doing research and seeing like what's more out there. What
Mm.
else can I bring my talent into? Because I really enjoyed that type of work. And when I couldn't do it anymore, I was looking for something similar or something where I could continue to basically be virtual and really make really effective trainings. So I
Mm.
did a lot of research and I found actually your 10-day career mindset reset course.
Mm.
And I remember exactly where I was. I was in Wyoming. We had a family vacation. We were like hiking and doing a lot of things. And I just remember how you would release the modules. And I would be really looking forward to hearing from you. And I watched in just amazement and heard the things that you said. And they were so real. They were just like, I don't know, I just connected to it and was so excited to just keep hearing it. And I just remember that during that course, thinking like there's got to be something else out there that I can do. And as a result of that, I started doing more research on you and just what's there. And I stumbled upon instructional design in that way. The amount of research that I've done was tremendous. I looked at many different possibilities to transition to instructional design. And I just remember looking, and actually, I think one of your other former students said that she was looking you up on Reddit. And I know Reddit is not the most reliable
Yeah.
place, but I remember seeing someone saying Tim Slade is legit. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. And then so I started then watching your videos and I looked at what you did and the things that you said. And I was like, okay, well, if I just watch the videos by myself, I need more structure.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning of me really looking at your program and thinking that, oh, I want to be a part of that.
That's funny. You're referring to Julie Lorton, who I think is here with us today.
Hi, Julie.
And hi, Julie. I don't hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot. The reason I bring up Julie is because I was last year I got a chance to go meet Julie in person and several other students, and I filmed a student story with hers that we're publishing next week. And it's that exact thing that you just described is what she mentioned in her student story. So that's funny how that I don't know that was parallel. I put a link to the
Yeah.
10-day career mindset reset course. It's a complete, for anyone who hasn't taken it, it's completely free. When I created that I think it was last year I created it. It was really, in retrospect, it was probably a bunch of like crap I needed to say to myself. And I thought, okay, if I need to say this to myself, maybe it's something that'll help other people as well. Um, so it sounds like I mean, it's interesting. It doesn't sound like you were necessarily looking for an escape out of education, but you were looking for roles that allowed you to continue doing the type of work you were already doing in education. You just didn't know had a title yet for instructional design.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, I actually never even knew it existed until I really started researching it and looking into it. And I think the other piece that really attracted me to it was understanding how instrumental instructional designers and e-learning developers are to like the bottom line of the business because
Mm.
it's a different mindset than in education. It's all about making sure that you are meeting the goals of the company, whatever it is that their business goals are and outcomes. Instructional designers and e-learning developers are so important in that role. And I think the weight of that has stuck with me that, it's not just about making like a pretty PowerPoint. Like it's about who are you impacting? How is the bottom line going to be met? How are the employees, the people who are taking your trainings or the clients that are taking your trainings, how will they benefit? How is that going to help them do their jobs better? Are they
Mm.
going to be engaged in the way that they're learning? Are they going to do the exact same thing in your training that they will be also doing on the job? So just thinking about that and really understanding it attracted me to it even more.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an important point. I mean, I think what you're describing that's those sort of that fundamental understanding of what instructional design is even something that I don't even think experienced instructional designers always conceptualize. And so, I mean, how did you, I'm curious to know then your experience with having that level of clarity as you were exploring the industry. And what I mean by that is, for a lot of people trying to transition into the industry, there is so much noise and there's so much conflicting advice. And a lot of times it gets like dumbed down into like, oh, just go build your portfolio website and you got a job, or just learn this tool and you got a job. And then like that deeper understanding of what instructional design is, it comes later, or sometimes doesn't come at all. And so I don't know, how did you filter out that noise to focus on the bigger picture? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. So I think when I finally signed up for your cohort, and when you were actually introducing like the foundations, but also the assessing the business goals, like how do you
Mm,
know that you need to design this e-learning? Is there another way that you can train on the same concept but differently, right? And just thinking about the intentionality of when would you design an e-learning experience, and then thinking about the business side of it. I think that piece kind of opened up my eyes to the fact that it's really important to understand the role that you play in the company when you are doing instructional design and e-learning development. I think as like educators, we want to make sure that the things that we bring to our work is intentional, like we're
mm,
impacting, we're affecting lives, we are, you know, doing great things for numerous other students and people in general. But I think taking that notion and saying, okay, well, this is also relevant and this is also really super important. And I think just kind of keeping that clarity helped me stumble on that. And that made me a better instructional designer and e-learning developer, that everything I do is intentional and it has to
yeah,
be done right.
yeah. Yeah, intentionality is super important as it relates to not just being an instructional designer and a good instructional designer, but intentionality and how you approach, in your
Mm-hmm.
case and a lot of other people's cases, a transition into the industry. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I think a lot of people get caught trying to follow prescribed processes that make it sound like it's an easy button, like
Yeah.
oh, I didn't mean to do a thumbs up there. We'll do a thumbs down for the prescribed processes. And what that looks like is like this oversimplified definition of instructional design and what it means to be an instructional designer and what hiring managers are looking for in instructional design. So can you speak a little bit about the intentionality that went into your journey, whether it was stuff you did on your own or in the cohort or whatever context that is about intentionality and your approach?
Yes, definitely. So when I joined the cohort, I was looking at the modules and I was going through the modules and I realized and recognized how intentionally set up they were. And
Mm,
so by going through and meticulously working through your structured approach, and just kind of sticking with it, and doing it step by step, I learned so much. So just like everybody else, I have limited time, right? We all
mm,
do. We have families, we have other jobs, perhaps. And so something that I had to do was I had to redesign my schedule. So I would have to get up extra early and I would have to go to bed extra late. And I just treated it so seriously. It was like a second job. It was a job, and I was going to succeed at doing it. And I think treating it like that, and just the fact that it wasn't about just watching content, but it was actually doing it, like learn by doing. Like that's the
mm,
motto that I believe is so important in learning anything, right? Like you're never going to learn anything really well if you just passively watch it. So I think struggling through learning by doing
mm,
and getting the feedback along the way and just kind of putting myself into it fully and understanding like I won't be able to achieve it in a day, in 2 days, in a week. It's going to take a while. And I'm going to do it by sprinting, sprint, ask for feedback, sprint, ask for feedback. And I think that the piece with the feedback and just the time that I had with your team
mm.
was so helpful in the process as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of work into that, and I really,
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that. I think you're reminding me of we have I know she wouldn't mind me mentioning her name, a past student. She was in the program like 3 years ago, I think. Eileen Curtis, and she just reached out to me the other day on LinkedIn, funny enough. And I always reference her story because one of the things I remember she told me, she was also a teacher and she worked full time as a teacher and she had kids and was busy. I think she was from Texas as well, oddly enough. Is she told me, she's like, I get up every day at 3 in the morning and I work from 3 until 5 on my cohort work until my family gets up. And that's when I do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Good for you that you can do that. But like, that's crazy. And I, she is somebody, she ended up like landing a job like 3 weeks later. Like she spent 3 weeks in the cohort and she worked her butt off. It's a crazy outlier story, but I always think of her and the way you've described it's these like, in that 10-day cohort or in the 10-day mindset, I talk about fitfoing, figuring out, you know what I mean? And I think those are the best examples are ones where people fitfo their way through their learning or their growth or building their portfolio or interviewing for jobs. They just like unapologetically thrust themselves outside their comfort zone and into the deep end of the pool. And that's where you see magic happen. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if you realized you were doing that, but you did that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of the time that's how I approach everything in life.
Mm,
And I think a lot of people who are serious about wanting to reach a goal also do the same thing. So, like, if you really want it, if you want to do something, you're going to find a way to do it. Like, whatever that takes, however you have to sacrifice, you're gonna get it done. And I think that that's just, having that mindset with really anything that's worthwhile is really difficult, right? Like
yeah.
nothing that's like worthwhile is easy, really, truly.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of keeping that, in mind when it comes to transitioning into instructional design and e-learning development. Like it will not be easy. If you think
No.
it's going to be easy, it's not going to be. It's going to take time. It's going to take dedication. I mean, I didn't do it like Eileen did. It took me a while. It took
Yeah.
me, a year to do it, but I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah, no, you did do it. I think that's the other thing too, is I think a lot of people, if there was one thing I could get up on a pedestal and yell to everyone in the world, and we'll do it in our little pedestal here in the live session, is that I wish people understood that there is no prescribed or canned um, process or expectations you can put into making not just a career transition, but it's like a full life shift. If you're leaving or transitioning from one career into another, or you're learning a whole new skill set and applying it in a totally different a different context, and part of that is getting a job or whatnot, there's no way to like, I have seen such a variety of different stories where some people, it takes them a year and they go and they apply for dozens of jobs and have dozens of interviews, and it takes them until the point of them going, I think I'm going to give up on this, before the universe finally like goes, okay, I'm gonna give it to you now. You know what I mean? And then other
Mhm.
people, they apply an interview for their very first job and they land it. There's no way to predict what somebody's going to experience there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just also wanted to say to like anyone that feels kind of frustrated and feels like, they've tried and they just like want to give up, like don't ever give up.
Mm,
Not never, ever, ever, ever give up. If you want it, go for it. Like keep going. I know it sounds cliche, but you never ever give up because
yeah.
then you
Yeah.
don't achieve it ever.
Yeah. You almost have to put yourself in a mindset that you have no option but to be successful. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You have no other option but to make it work. And when you put yourself in those weird foxholes, it forces you to do things. It challenges you to do things that you didn't even know you were capable of doing. You know what I mean? So,
Yes,
oh
100%.
yeah. So can you talk a little bit about? When we were talking earlier, you mentioned imposter syndrome
Hmm.
and the importance of embracing being uncomfortable and confidence. Can you talk a little bit about how you how you managed to work through some of those things? Or when you felt those things, like when did you feel imposter syndrome the most or the least confident? How'd you work past it?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I think when I got started
Mm,
with the program, and before I really understood that, you have to figure out exactly what you have to do and what it's all about, you feel that the most. Because you feel like, oh, like this is so overwhelming. I don't know how I'm going to, how I'm going to get this done, how I'm going to get through this. And the other times when you feel like that is when you're not successful, when you're developing in a program that you've never developed in
mm,
before, and you are just trying to make something work and it's not working. And so
yeah.
you're thinking, oh, like I don't know how to do this. Like, I can't get this done. Right. So sometimes we have to walk away from it for like a little bit and then come back to it. And sometimes if you walk away from it, it could kind of clarify you know, clear your mind and you are able to look at it from a different perspective. But I think the beginnings are always hard. And then when you're having difficulties along in the journey, that's when you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like,
Mm,
this is not for me. So I think kind of persevering through it. But I do have to tell you, like, what really helped me a ton was the feedback loop.
mm,
So in the cohort, you somehow have managed to just really design it so well where, if you put in the work, like when I put in the work and I would ask for feedback on something, no matter how small it was, but sometimes I would get stuck because I couldn't progress until I got that previous piece developed in storyline, for example. um, the importance of it was asking for the feedback, not being shy, not being embarrassed, not worrying what other people will think, and just the fact that you offer office hours, right? So you can come to office hours, but just it was important for me to have something prepared. um, totally. And just having something and saying, okay, this is what it is. Like, help me think of a better way to do this because I feel like I'm stuck in my mind right now. And I'm looking at it just from one direction, right? Because there are many different approaches to how you can solve something when you're developing. And I think working through that has really helped me with the imposter syndrome or feeling like I would never get past it. Just always being prepared, bringing something to the discussion, and getting that feedback, trying again. And as you are successful in conquering those little challenges, like step by step, it could be like slide by slide, right? Like
mm-hmm.
scenario by scenario. You just kind of gain the confidence along the way because you're doing it and you're achieving it.
Yeah. Well, I think, I guess there's a couple things I want to say about that. For, I appreciate the kind words. When I created the program, uh, what I wanted to do was I wanted to recreate what you would experience on the job in the real world. In the real world, when you get stuck, nobody's going to come tap on your shoulder and go, "Oh, Tanya, it appears that you're stuck." You know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen in the real world. In the real
Mm-hmm.
world, you got to turn around and use your resources or use your colleagues or use your boss and go, "I'm stuck on this and here's why I'm stuck on it and can you help me do it?" Right? And so that's very intentional in the design of the program and how we manage feedback is it's the exact same type of feedback process and feedback loops you would experience in the real world when you send a project off for a review cycle with a stakeholder or with your boss. That's how that's going to be experienced. And I think part of the reason I do that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is because it's so important to get comfortable with sharing your work and explaining why you decided to do something and then openly accept the feedback or the criticism or the edits that you receive in the process. Because again, when you get thrusted in the real world, you're going to get thrown in front of people all day long and have to explain your work and be prepared to speak about it. And so um, can you explain kind of like the journey of getting comfortable with talking about your work and sharing your screen and going, I can't figure out this trigger, or the slide looks ugly and I can't figure it out? Like, because I think a lot of people really struggle. I know I've experienced this with students. Is it's like sharing their screen feels like they're like revealing themselves. You know what I mean? And it's really not that scary. But can you talk about how you overcame that?
Yeah, so I think I do appreciate the fact that it is difficult
Mm,
to kind of bear yourself in something that you are learning to do and then showing your weaknesses, right? Your
yeah.
mistakes. Um, but I think what helped me the most was always keeping the end goal in mind. why am I doing this? Why am I showing my work? Why am I trying to make it better? And really realizing that, well, I want to do this. This is something that I really want to do. And I want to, there's something that you said about e-learning development and instructional design, that you learn to do something and try to be above average. And so
Hmm.
that has always
I
stuck
said
with
that.
me. Yeah, just
That's
be
cool.
above average, right? And
Oh
so
yes.
I've always thought to myself, like, I like this. I want to do this. How do I continue to grow? Because there's so many more, there's so many people that are so skilled with storyline, right?
Yeah.
And other just development tools. And my constant, thought in the back of my mind is like, how can I get better at it? How can I be above average? How can I be more than above average at some point, right?
Hmm.
But I think it's just like really never settling for like, well, I can't do this and I'm too embarrassed to say that I can't do this. So I'm just going to stop and I'm not going to keep going.
Yeah.
So I just think like keeping your like end goal, the bottom line, and I think how that would translate in business and then your job, then it's what are you going to do? Like when you have a job and you're working in the business, what are you just going to like, oh, I can't do this, so therefore I quit and I give up.
Yeah.
You can't be like that. So you kind of treat feedback like that's gold. Like when something's not working, that's a good thing that I know right now before it goes in front of a client and you really make yourself and your business look bad, right?
Yeah.
So you want to practice. It's like you're doing a scenario, right? You're part of the scenario where you're trying to get better and trying to improve. So I think just knowing that and just being appreciative of the fact that it just helps you get better, is what makes me kind of not afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, one of the things I remember, and if you can share a link, you have a link to your portfolio. If you can put a link to that in chat, because I'll reference a couple of things about that. In that theme of like trying to improve and be the best version that you can, I think those are two things you did with two of the projects that I've helped you on. The initial one you worked on, which was all about customer experience, right? It was for like an ed tech type company or a customer
Mm-hmm.
education type situation, and then you did one of our challenges with the brewery one. The two things I remember from both working with you on both of those is you constantly trying to figure out like I want to do it this way, make it more complicated, or but in a good way, like make it more advanced. Like I remember that with the brewery one, you were really intent on trying to figure out, okay, they have to select the beer and then they have to like drag the thing to the customer and they have to do the right size or something like that. And I know one of the things that you told me privately is how much using AI helped you in like, you've wanted to do something more complicated than you knew you could figure out on your own, and so you leveraged a lot of AI and
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So in the brewery course, which was one of your e-learning challenges, which I think I started as a challenge, but I realized that I couldn't finish it in time, but I just kept
Yeah.
going and just made it a portfolio project. I really wanted to be very human centric. So I wanted it to be customized, and I wanted like certain personas to act a certain way, say certain things, and I wanted to incorporate and infuse some humor into it, because it was just kind of like more of a lighthearted topic. And so I designed a lot of the project using ChatGPT as well as Canva AI and Envato. And so I really wanted to just try something fun, try something different. And there was a huge learning curve with making images and making
Mm,
consistent characters. And and 11 Labs was something that I used for it too. But it was definitely not easy and it was time consuming. So it wasn't like, I mean, it's always time consuming when you're trying to find the right assets and have the right feel of the course. But one would think, oh, you just like prompt ChatGPT and it'll just create whatever you want. It's not like that. So sometimes things don't look right, and then nothing is ever good enough, right? When you're when you're
mm-hmm.
designing, you want it to be perfect. So that part took time, but I think it was just even discovering how to prompt correctly, how to leverage what was already created that you like, that I like, how to use that to create something else that has the same look and feel.
Yeah.
Um, So that was um, definitely tough.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from that experience. And one of the things that I tried that I kind of got into in that project was vibe coding.
Mm.
And it was something that I had never done before, but I've seen a lot of people try it. And I was like, okay, I want to try it as well. And it was a fun experience. And since then, I've definitely like leveraged that skill to create other things through it. It's just amazing what you can do without really knowing coding. It's just
Yeah.
so cool, so much fun. And I'm actually trying to work through one of your e-learning challenge right now using Parta,
Oh, yeah.
and also combining that with Lovable. So I don't
Okay.
know if I'll finish on time, but I'll
That's
definitely
okay.
finish, and eventually it'll be done.
Share something, right? Yeah. Good. Yeah. I think, those are all good examples of trying to do that, what you were talking about earlier, like being just above average, right? And I think too, part of that is, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, is that when you're in the midst of learning a new skill set and trying to transition into a new job or into a new industry, um, self-comparison oftentimes gets into your own head. And, you mentioned this earlier, you can go on LinkedIn and you can find all sorts of amazing people doing crazy, amazing things. And it's easy to find yourself comparing yourself against them. And I think one of the things I believe, and we were talking about this earlier before we started today's session, is that a lot of times we set a bar for ourselves that's way higher than what anyone else is expecting of us. You know what I mean? And there's points where like that could be healthy, like trying to achieve being just slightly above average. You know what I mean? And then there's points where that gets unhealthy, where you get paralyzed trying to meet a standard or compete with somebody who might have 15 years experience on you. You know what I mean? And it's a totally unfair comparison. So did you experience any of that in the last year or so? And like, how did you manage not letting the self-comparison paralyze you along the way? Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. So it's interesting that you say this because working with your team, right? Like you yourself, you are an expert, right? You know what you're doing. You've done this for years. You are excellent at it. Enough, so good that you can teach others, right?
Hmm.
And so if I let that hold me back, right? If I thought, oh, the people that I can learn from are so much better than I am, so I'm just not going to do it because I just can't, right? Then I would never learn. So I think I just think about it a little differently. Like your team, you all have your talents, right? And
Hmm.
I mean, just everyone is good at some people are better at everything, some people are specifically good at something, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just learning from each person and their talents and not thinking that, oh, they're so much better than I am, so therefore I cannot even compete, so I will not even try. So it's just a different way of thinking about like the amazing people that you see doing amazing things on LinkedIn. It's I think I'm really inspired by a lot of people, and I want to try new things, and I love how they have accomplished the things that they have accomplished. And I just think that it's cool. It's like feedback, right? Like
Yeah.
feedback is hard, and also seeing someone really good at something could be hard. But how can you take that and say, okay, well, I want to try something like that. Like that would be awesome.
Mm.
And just it's a different mindset, really. It's all about how you
Yeah,
think.
I really love that. I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It reminds me of when we were talking about imposter syndrome earlier. Like I think we all have an option on how we choose to process and internalize imposter syndrome. Like you could choose to make it about, oh, I'm an outsider and I don't belong, you
Mhm.
know. And the more you think about it, the more you'll make that true for yourself. Or you can just choose to go, I'm outside my comfort zone and I still have room to grow, and use it as a way to propel you. And the same thing with self-comparison. You can look at anybody, and we all fall into the trap of self-comparison, but you can choose to go, okay, that person's better than me, why bother? Or that person's doing cool stuff, let me see if I can do cool stuff too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Right?
Yeah, 100%. I think I just kind of get inspired by other people and I
Yeah.
take it from there. Am I going to be competing with them? No, I can't do that, but I can learn from each person that does something cool and maybe try it myself.
Yeah. So let's pivot. Let's talk a little bit about, I want to hear, once you finished the program and now you were in the space of, okay, I'm making the transition. I'm looking for work. One of the things I've talked about before with a few folks who are actually here today is the importance of how you show up as a professional in this industry or online, and especially when you're in the midst of a job search, you know what I mean? And one of the things that's easy to fall into is the trap of, I have a couple of different ways I describe it, and I'll explain both ways here for the audience. It's easy to fall into the trap of what I call green banner behavior or job seeker bait. You know what I mean? There's a lot of job seeker bait out there where people will post things that are designed to get people who are job seekers angry and riled up. And then they start commenting about how much the job process seeking sucks, or this recruiter ghosted me or whatnot. And it's so critical to like not play into that and to maintain your cool and level-headedness and show up as the professional that you want to be hired for in the long run. And I think you did a really great job of that in your whole transition. Can you talk a little bit about like how you maintained, I don't know, that demeanor, that persona throughout your process or experience?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it because as you put yourself out there, you obviously spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And the kind of things that you are describing were described in kind of how you set up your question. It's interesting that I've noticed that as well, that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people, I should say, some people kind of forget the purpose of the platform. So LinkedIn is not like other platforms, right? It's a professional business tool. It's a networking tool, and it's a way for you to showcase yourself as a real professional in your industry. And I think if you keep that in mind, its purpose and the fact that anything that you post on LinkedIn goes to everybody, right? Everyone can see it. And so when you are in the space where you're looking for a new position, um, you want to portray yourself as someone hireable and someone who is an expert or is excellent at the job that you're being hired to do. And so when you become irritated or when you air your emotions in that space, and I don't want to offend people and I don't want to be, hurtful, but it just doesn't make you look good. It's kind of unprofessional. You really have to keep your work life and your personal feelings separate. Your work life, and maybe people disagree, but I just think your work life is not about feelings. It's about the bottom line and you doing an excellent job at the current employer that you're working for. And so those feelings, you maybe share them with your family or with your friends. But I think airing them in such a public space, where do recruiters look? They look on your LinkedIn profile. Where do hiring managers look? They look at your profile. And so I think the importance of using LinkedIn correctly is showcasing your work, right? Like showing what you can do, discussing topics relevant to the industry with other professionals, being extremely polite and respectful and supportive of the people in the same industry, not engaging in like off-color conversations.
Yeah. It looks like Tanya froze for a second.
Right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. It says my connection is unstable.
It's good. You're good now. Yeah, I think the real challenge in that is holding the idea that two things can be true in your mind at the same time. Like, yes, the job seeking process can be really exhausting. Yes, it can be very frustrating that a recruiter or a hiring manager ghosts you, or you're struggling to get interviews. Those feelings and frustrations are very true. And LinkedIn's not the place to share them. You know what I mean? It's not that they're not valid feelings. It's that you really have to be thoughtful about curating a version of yourself in that space that puts you in the best light. Because at the end of the day, it's about, I hate to boil it down to it, but it's a business transaction. Getting hired as an employee is a business transaction. And one way I've explained it before is like, let's say we have a local cupcake shop and they aren't selling a lot of cupcakes because customers aren't coming in to buy cupcakes. Well, if they go onto your local Facebook page or Instagram and complain about all of the annoying customers who will not come buy cupcakes, that's not going to get people to come buy their cupcakes. You know what I mean?
Right.
They got to be showing how great their cupcakes are. And so like the same thing applies to all of us, is we got to show how great our proverbial cupcakes are. Not our literal cupcakes, our proverbial cupcakes. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it's just you're building a brand. You are a brand,
Yeah.
right? So what do you want your brand to be known for?
Yeah.
You know, like what do you want people to see or think about when they look at your work and kind of see your posts? And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. But I don't want to diminish the difficult time that people have in trying to transition or to try to find a different career. Like it's definitely a human experience. And I 100% feel that. It's just, you just can't do it on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. As you look back on your transition, your time in the cohort, whatever, your journey, what do you know to be true about yourself now that maybe you didn't know when it all started?
So that's a really good question. I appreciate you asking it. I have definitely a lot more confidence with trying new things, with trying new tools, with learning new technologies, and just with understanding that if I feel like at the moment I can't do something, that doesn't mean that I will always feel like that about that particular topic or skill set. And so it's taking that, well, I don't know, or I'm not sure, and learning about it and spending time on it and really not giving up on it and not putting yourself down if you can't do something right now, and not comparing yourself, but just having a different kind of like open mindset. I think that the you and the cohort has really helped me with that. Like even things like when I worked on my resume,
Mm.
and you have a lot of sessions where you have your team working with um, people in my position on their resume and on actually interview skills, right? So even for something like that, I didn't want to come in with a resume that wasn't already somewhat decent, right?
Mm.
Because that would be a waste of my time and a waste of whoever is helping me time. So I did want to mention that one of the things that I did was I reached out to someone by the name of Erin Luber. She's on LinkedIn. She's a great career coach.
Yeah, she's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, she's really cool, and I highly recommend looking her up. And she has this resume building course that you kind of go at your own pace. She walks you through it. So I just really wanted to give her some kudos because she helped me to, when I worked on my resume and I felt like I had something that was okay, that was like transferable to instructional design. And then after that, I would bring it to the sessions. I felt a lot better and I felt like I could do it. So it was just kind of like that, like productive struggle to make myself better along the way is also something that I'm taking out of the cohort and moving forward with. Because if something is not good, if I don't know how to do something, I'm going to figure it out and it's going to be good. And
Yeah.
so that's just kind of my mindset and my approach to everything that, I try to achieve.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I put a link to in chat. I did a really great conversation with Erin. Gosh, it was a couple months ago. But we talked a lot about resumes. The big thing we talked about is like this myth of a dream job. There isn't really a dream job. So everyone can feel free to check that out. It was a really great conversation. She's awesome. Yeah, I think, the thing I hope you took away, whether you learned it now or you're going to learn it later or whatever, is one of the things I always try to tell students early on in the program is like you're all way more capable than you're probably giving yourself credit for. And the things that are really getting in your way aren't, oh, I don't know how to use this tool. That's not really what's in your way. Or I'm nervous about, am I good enough? Well, that's really not the thing that's in your way. It's all of these other emotions, and and things that get in your way. And the truth is you're way more confident and capable than you're giving yourself credit for. You know what I mean? One of the things, somebody on my team, Kathleen Volk, who I think is here, she helps me in the cohort and in the community. She introduced me to this idea of being two things, like being a professional in practice or being a professional in training, and understanding that, you know, when you're a professional in practice and training, the goal is to work through all those insecurities. The goal is to embrace those, because you have to get through all of that. You have to feel all of those things to come out the other end. You know what I mean? It's not ignoring them. It's facing them head on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And that confidence, I think, you never stop trying to grow that confidence, because it's not like, oh, like now I'm confident about everything. Just maybe feeling a little bit unsure, or maybe like questioning if this looks good enough, or if this is, sending the right message. I think a little bit of that is good to have, right? Because it kind of drives you to be better, but you just can't let it paralyze you entirely and think, oh, I'm not good enough, I'll never figure it out. Like, you also have to kind of change the way that you think about those challenges. And that's really hard to do, very
Yeah.
hard to do,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And that takes time. Yeah.
Hmm?
Well, okay. Well, we have a little bit. We have about 10 minutes remaining, and we have some time for questions. If anyone has questions for Tania or myself, you can put those in chat, or like I said at the beginning of the call, we have the Q&A pod. It's the little question mark bubble icon in the bottom of the screen. You can put those there. One thing I'll mention real quickly, obviously, we've been talking a lot about the cohort. Tania participated in our cohort. We have several other folks here who also participated in it, or who are currently participating in it. So we're doing one final cohort. It kicks off in October, and we're accepting 25 students. And the goal of the program is to give practitioners a really good practical overview of the instructional design and e-learning development process, and do it in a hands-on way. And part of the way that we do that is through a lot of feedback, as I know you experienced, Tania, and other people have experienced, feedback and connection and practice. And as part of that, we also, unfortunately, Tanya, I don't think you got a chance to experience this. This is something I added later this year. We include 6 months access to Storyline, so that you have time to really get into the program. And then we're also including bonus access to a new course that I'm launching in October called the ID Career Jumpstart. So I put a link in chat. It's the pinned chat at the top, but I'll also copy it and put it in chat again, so you can learn more about that and join the wait list there. Well, like I said, we're only accepting 25 students, and that'll be on a first come, first served basis. But if you're on the wait list, then you'll get priority access to all of that. So yeah, and Joanne, no worries. If you're on the wait list, that's all you need to know. So I'll be reaching out in the next week or so. But feel free to put any other questions in chat. Okay, let's take some questions. I know, yeah, Antonio wanted to know, did you make the full leap from education and instructional design? Yeah, you're
I did.
freaking instructional designer, Tania.
I did, and an e-learning developer at that.
Yeah, very good. Good. What other questions do we have for Tania or for myself? While we wait, what's one thing you wish you knew, or if you could go back like however long ago, a year ago, and like take yourself out for a beer, what would you be like, Tania? What would you say? Finish that sentence.
So prior to doing this,
Yeah, prior to anything, wherever. If you can go back to the moment you needed to hear something from yourself in the future the most, what would that be? And what was that moment? What would you say?
I think that I would probably say, do whatever you want to do sooner. Like, don't wait, don't procrastinate, don't, doubt yourself. I think it's just so super important. Just if you have a plan that you've researched, because you don't just like leap at things, right? Like, you don't just like, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that. If you have a fully researched plan and an idea, start that sooner than later, because you'll get to where you want to be faster and you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would agree with that. You know what I mean? If I could go back in time, I'd shake myself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
seriously. 100%. And I really just think that just doing that research and joining the right program, the right environment, like the right structure, and also like holding yourself accountable with each step of the way is really helpful to me, because no one is going to do it for you, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, well, when you go to college, right? Like no one is going to stand over you and say to you, okay, it's time to go to class, or okay,
Yes.
come on, go get your homework done. Like you got to get it done, and that's it. You just do it. That's all
Yeah.
there is to it.
And that's how it's going to be at work too. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can't plus one that more. How did you? And I'll address some of the stuff in chat. How did you hold yourself accountable? How did that show up besides waking up early and doing it early?
I think I always just kept in mind that I want to transition outside of education, and I
Mm,
want to go into the corporate environment. And I have a lot of talents, and I have a lot of learning that I've done in education that I can now transition to something else that will challenge me and that will be interesting to me. Like I like to be interested in what I do, and I like for it to be challenging. And I think that that really kept me motivated, because if you find yourself not challenged and not motivated, and like you're kind of dreading kind of where you are in a way, for whatever reason, like what are you going to do to change it? Because are you just
yeah.
going to continue to be stuck in that pattern? It's not good for you. It's really self-destructive. And then just how will you advance? Because you only have one life, you got to live it, and you got to make the best out of it. And so what's best for you? You got to do it. So you
I
just
yeah,
do it.
I really appreciate that. I think, when I was thinking about this as you were talking about for myself, like how do I hold myself accountable? And I'm curious to know how this resonates with you, Tanya. And I'm just reading some of the comments. Thank you all so much for the kind words, by the way. And a lot of kind words for you too, Tanya, by the way.
Thank you.
What I think is super important, and I'm curious to know if this resonates with you, Tanya, is like you have to have a really good vision for yourself in your life, in your career. And the more you sit and think about it and the clearer you get about it, the more capable you are of reverse engineering the steps you need to take to get there. Like one of the things
Mhm.
I've talked about before, this is going to sound really woo woo, but like, I don't know if anyone's Star Trek fans here. I'm a big Star Trek fan. And in Star Trek, they have holodecks, a holodeck where they can go in and like create environments and whatnot. I treat my mind like a little holodeck. And I will, whether it's a course that I'm building, or I did this with my book, I'm doing it with other things that I'm working on, or if it's a job or a career, like you almost have to treat it like a holodeck. And the more you envision it and the clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer you can make that thing in your mind, like then you can start going, okay, if that's where I need to go, like then you start working backwards and go, what steps do I need to take to get there? You know what I mean? And if you can do that, you almost don't even have to hold yourself accountable because you're so inspired and there's such a clear path. I don't know. Is that woo woo? Do you get that, Tanya, as I say all that?
No, no, it makes total sense. And I didn't know that you were a big fan of Star Trek, because I am as well.
Oh, really? What Star
That's
Trek
so funny.
series are
Um,
yours?
I was okay with Captain Picard, of course.
Okay, that's like the OG one.
Old
But
school.
like,
I'm old though. Like,
okay, but like, what
well,
about
wait,
DS9 or Voyager?
that's okay. I'll watch those too.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm going back through DS9 right now. So
Um, yeah, I mean, I think if you can imagine it, if you can like dream it, if you could see yourself there when you look at other people who are there, you just use that as a positive driver for yourself. And if you align yourself with the right people, because you can't do anything in isolation, right?
mm-hmm.
When you align yourself with the right program and the right feedback and the right professionals, then I think it just helps you get there faster, and just never ever give up on it.
Yeah. Victoria wanted to know, and I know you were in the middle of answering that. What tool did you use for your characters? Was it you did a lot of it in ChatGPT, right?
I did a lot in ChatGPT, and I did pay like the basic plan that you can have. I think it's like $20 a month. That's like another thing. Like I'm willing to spend money on doing things that are good for my professional development and that will help me, the tools. And maybe I'm like a little bit I don't know, like maybe I do it a little too much, but I just feel like if you want to achieve something good, like it's worth investing into it. And then it helps you along the way, so it makes it less frustrating because it works better.
Yeah. I don't know if you did this with yours, Tanya, but I know some other students who've used ChatGPT to create their characters. Like they'll go get a sample character that they
Mhm.
like and they'll feed it to ChatGPT to be like, I'm creating a character like this. And
Mhm.
that's helped with that as well.
Yeah, you kind of talk to it like it's an assistant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shanika wanted to know, she said she mentioned she joined a little late. Did you work in higher education or K through 12 teaching? Can you clarify a little bit of that in your background?
Sure. K through 12 and K through 12 leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Shanika. Um, and Tony wants to know, what subscriptions are you paying for currently? I'll mention mine and then I'm curious to hear yours, Tanya. I have ChatGPT. I do like the $20 a month one. I find that to be worth it. I'm a big fan of Envato Elements, and they have a whole bunch of new AI stuff in there. And then I have Adobe Creative Cloud, which I use for like Adobe Illustrator and whatnot. What other
Mhm.
stuff do you currently pay for?
I have all those, and then I also have 11 Labs.
Mm,
And I also recently have paid for Lovable just to like have a
yeah.
better chance to vibe code and create something that I actually like, and I really love it. It's really cool. I think you did something on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of
Yeah.
videos on that, so I recommend checking it out. But yeah, those are my go-to as well. Yeah, and ChatGPT, I think it's worth it to pay the $20 for it to
Yeah.
just kind of work better for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, any final words that you would share to the group? I'm going to pull up a link real quickly. Any words of wisdom? Anything you want to share before we
Um,
wrap up, Tanya?
I just really appreciate everyone being here and listening to my story. I mean, you all have important, interesting stories, and you all are going through your own journey. And I mean, I'm just, regular person. I'm not, just, someone super special in this. But I just think if there's one thing that I want to communicate, it's just please don't give up. If you feel like instructional design and e-learning development is something that really interests you, just keep going. Check out Tim's cohort. He doesn't pay me to say this. It's his personal experience, but I just think that you go for it. If you can be dedicated to it, it will pay off in the long term. And that's something that Julie Lorton told me a while back when I just got started. And it's true for her and it's true for me.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tanya. Well, I put a
Mm-hmm.
link to more of our student stories in chat, and Julie's student story is actually coming up Tuesday, so you guys get to hear from her. Otherwise, thank you so much, Tanya. It's been great having you, great chatting with you. People are curious about the tools, so Envato Elements, Lovable, 11 Labs. If you missed anything, you can reach out to myself or Tanya in the community, and we can answer. There's, a whole host of tools that we use on a regular basis. So thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you everybody for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, have a great rest of your week, Tanya, and bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.